Hi, everyone, and welcome to Her Fabulous Financial Future, a Women's Wealth podcast. I'm your host today. I'm Selena Flavius, a money mentor for Women's Wealth. I'm here with one of our lovely clients, Annabelle, and myself and Annabelle met in January last year when you were returning from maternity leave. I think it was just before you returned. And as a working mum of one with a great career as a director of supply chain strategy for a fashion brand, she had Googled female financial advisor and found Women's Wealth. So I'm really excited to speak to you today, Annabelle, and just to hear about your experience of getting financial advice and planning. And you probably don't know this, but you were one of my first clients when I started work at Women's Wealth. So I'm excited to hear what your experience has been like, because we've been working with each other for the past year or so. So I'm just really excited to talk to you today, Annabelle. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you, and happy to be here. I'm excited to share a bit about the journey because it has been a really positive one.
Amazing. Thank you. So I don't know if you remember when you first were looking for financial advice and planning.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got some notes, and we're required to keep lots of notes about what we talk to our clients about.
Yeah.
So I've got a bit of a list of the type of things you were thinking about when you joined. But do you remember what you were kind of looking for and thinking about?
Yes, definitely. And it's so vivid because when I basically had to do my self-assessment for the first time, and I didn't realize how big my tax bill, and maybe it's not big to many people, but in my experience it was big, and I wasn't prepared for it. So in December before the March, when I contacted you, in fact it was probably a bit earlier than that, it was the January time, but we kind of kicked off from March. I had done my self-assessment with one of my cousins, and he basically told me the final figure, and I just thought, oh my gosh, I don't have this money. I didn't realize that it was going to be this big, and I have a kid. What am I going to do? Is this something that's going to happen every year? And so I kind of had a bit of a reflection point right there and then, and said, this is not a situation that I want to be in again. And so I just thought, I've just had a daughter, I need to get my in order. And then after that, I just started on a bit of a Google search, like speaking to friends, speaking to my cousin who's a tax advisor. And I just wanted to get everything sorted. And I already had known that I had kind of 5 or 6 pensions from previous roles, and I had moved around a lot before I came to Burberry, and I knew that needed sorting. So I was kind of like, enough is enough. I'm just going to invest, get these things sorted, and also go on a bit of a journey and really understand like what, understand tax law, understand what my, parameters are. And that's why I kind of found you guys. And I really enjoyed the fact that the cornerstone of Women's Wealth was all about financial independence for women. And the brand really resonated with me. And that's why I got in touch.
Oh, I love that. And I do remember, and I have exactly that list. It was about, the unexpected tax bill, returning from maternity leave. So yeah, I do remember. And I do remember our initial, we do an initial discovery call meeting with our clients just to understand, okay, what's making them look for financial advice and planning. And for some of our clients, it's the first time. For some of our clients, they are swapping from, an old advisor to us and a new one. And we do hear a lot that, the Women's Wealth brand really resonates. So, we really like that. Tell me about you, Annabelle. So tell me about, some of your experiences of navigating your career and money. So what was your first job that you had, and what were the earnings, and how did you handle money?
Well, it's funny actually, because when I was looking at, some of the questions ahead of this, I was thinking back to when my first encounters with money was, and actually, I mean, I've always been a bit of an entrepreneur, and I'm sure we'll go on to talk about Studio British, but I think when I was around 8 or 9, and we used to live in a cul-de-sac, so it was a very open door policy, if you will, with all of our neighbours. So we could just walk into our friends' houses at any point in time, grab some eggs, grab some milk. It was like a really wholesome community. And from the very early age of 8, I would grab kind of old jam jars, and whoever had them going, I would actually nick them from their kitchens. But the reason why was because I was obsessed with making perfume, and my version of perfume back then was water and just petals in it. So
lovely.
I would go around with this tray and these just boring jars of water and petals and say I'm selling perfume for 50p a jar. So would you guys be interested? And I would just rock up into people's front rooms and be like, hey guys, would you like some perfume?
Would they buy from me? I'm
They
sure they
did
would buy
buy,
from you.
they
Yeah.
did buy. And actually, I mean, I think things, I can't remember the exact price, but it was probably definitely in the pences. And I wouldn't say that I was saving at that moment in time, but I was making my own money so I can go and buy penny sweets from the local corner shop when they actually were 1 penny per sweet.
Yeah.
So I would say that actually earned some money, but then I burned it all in penny sweets. So that was not my first interaction with money, but my first job was actually a leafleting gig. I think at the age of like 14, which I had to do with my parents. And it was just to get extra money to be able to go out with my friends. And my dad always said, you know, from the moment that you can work, always work. So you understand what it means to have a job, what it takes, like you learn how to be, you know, on time, all the basic skills that, you know, you get when you start a job. But then after that, my proper job where I actually was at PAYE was I used to work at Halfords every Saturday and Sunday, so every weekend and over the summer holidays and term time. And I actually worked at Halfords from the age of 16. So as soon as I turned 16, all the way up until 21. And I just moved Halfords across like their network in the UK. So I worked in this couple of stores here in Surrey, near close to my home. And then I also worked when I was at university. And that literally, from the moment I started, I used to save £50 a month every month. And the money from when I was 16 actually transpired in the money that I ended up using for my first flat. So
that's incredible. And I do think the fact that you stayed there for quite some time, you know, you think about sometimes when you think about your first proper job where you are PAYE, you think, oh, you know, it might be just a job that you do for, you know, maybe a year or two and move. But the fact that you stayed there from 16 to 21, so you're pretty solid, pretty committed, and then you were saving as well. But I also love your entrepreneurial kind of spirit at 8 years old as well. That's incredible.
I wouldn't buy that now. I think if somebody came to my door now with petals in a glass jar with water, I'd probably say, no way.
No, yeah. And who would you say would be your go-to person? I know that you mentioned your dad there, and it sounds like he taught you quite a few, you know, really important lessons around, you know, being at work and learning the skills and all of the positive takeaways from, you know, being active and just working. But who would you say would be your go-to person to speak to when it came to money? And if you had any money role models almost?
Yeah, I mean, I think it will, when I was a kid, it was always my dad. He was very, very adamant around, you know, being able to live within your means. And I mean, I know this is a really common phrase, but it was just something that was drummed into me over and over again. And I think it's part of the reason why. Well, he always said, but live within your means and always use a credit card, but use a credit card in the right way. In that you borrow money when you need to borrow money, but you pay everything back at the end of the month. And those are the two things that have always been in my mind. And it's the reason why, I mean, there's definitely been moments where I've had very minuscule credit card debt, but it's always been something that I can pay back like within the month or within the 2-month mark. So that's always for me been, when people talk about credit card debt, I always say credit cards are so beneficial and they're so useful when you use them in the correct way. And I think that's down to some of the teachings that my dad told me. And he always said, as soon as you start your first proper job, make sure you start paying into your pension. Because he said the state pension's not very good. So I think that's why I had so many pensions. Because every time, and it was funny because even when I started my first proper job at Deloitte, you know, many of my friends at the time were like, I'm not going to pay into my pension because I've got all this time to pay into my pension, so I'm just going to take the extra cash. And I remember thinking about it, going, oh, I could not pay into my pension. But I remember then the conversation, definitely pay into your pension. Like, don't even not think about it. So those are like probably some of the mantras that have like stuck with me for a long time. And the fourth one is, you know, you're not going to go to the grave with your money. So definitely spend it on the things that, you know, from an experience perspective. And my parents, and you know, they weren't wealthy, but, you know, they worked hard and they earned good money. And I always remember experiences that we always kind of had Sunday rituals where we used to go to this vineyard close to our home, or we had holidays. So I think those 4 teachings have just stuck with me forever. And it'll be the things that I pass on to Nala. And I know they're not, you know, they're typical, right, in anything around savings and money, but they definitely have been hammered in for sure.
Yeah, and I would say, you know, not everyone gets those money lessons taught to them. You know, I speak to a lot of women about money, just as part of the role, and you know, you'd be surprised how many people were not told, okay, it's a good idea to pay into a pension. So I do always think, you know, if someone's been given that bit of advice, they have a little bit of a head start. So, you know, I feel like they sound like ordinary bits of advice, but they are so valuable. They are really, really so valuable on a person's financial journey. So that's amazing that you were given all of that good advice from your dad. And can we talk about your current role, sort of earnings? You don't go into figures, but you know, what has that journey been like? I know that you mentioned Deloitte. Was that your first kind of grown up job role?
I mean, when I came out of it was interesting actually, because I always thought that I was quite organized, or quite, you know, a good planner. But when I came out of university, you know, all my friends had, you know, really good internships that they were doing over the summer, and I just kind of enjoyed university. And then when it came to summer, I was just working at bars or working at Halfords and just enjoying being young. Like, I didn't spend a lot of time focusing on, you know, securing the internship, getting the graduate program, because obviously the graduate program did mean good money. I mean, some of my friends, I went to University of Birmingham, and some of my friends were coming out with graduate programs in, you know, Standard Chartered, starting with 60 grand a year, like coming out as a graduate. And I kind of fell out of university and thought, oh no, I should have planned this better. Luckily, I ended up in a really great job as a research analyst for kind of a research firm that worked with private equity and consulting companies. That was kind of my first insight into consulting. And actually, the pay was really good. And I think I started at around, well, actually, I lied. I actually started at Foxtons. I lasted 3 months.
Okay.
The pay was, I think, at 22,000, and I wasn't on commission yet. But within 3 months, I just thought, I'm not being challenged here. This is not the place for me. And then I moved into another company called Cognolink, which is now, I believe, called Third Bridge. And I think the pay started at around 27,000, but there was commission attached, because the more, it was an expert network. So the more you connected your clients with experts to support them on, whether it was, you know, a managed buyout, product expansion, market expansion, whatever the project or topic was, you would then gain kind of commission, so to speak, like internally. The more calls and more experts you put them in touch with, kind of your ticker was going up. So I had a bit of a sales element to the role. So I very quickly started to, and that's why I always kind of like the sales side of things. But from there, I kind of catapulted into the world of consulting, and then through that ended up at Deloitte. And that was kind of my first, I guess, taste of a good amount of money at the age that I was, because I was probably, I don't know, 23, 24 at the time. I was with Deloitte for some time. I got promoted, and then I played around in consultancy for a bit. So actually continued to kind of improve skill set there, and also followed a bit the money. In fact, I changed jobs quite a bit just to chase the cash, if I'm perfectly honest.
Nothing wrong with that.
And then kind of whilst I was doing that, because I think what I wanted was the money then to be able to start my own thing. And that's when I started Studio British, which is kind of, think of just a Farfetch, but on a very, very small scale. And it was championing British brands that manufacture here in the UK. And the whole concept of Studio British was encouraging you to, you know, be the antidote to fast fashion and really invest in pieces that can last a lifetime. And so we worked with really cool British brands that have been around for, 100, 200 years, like Private White, Trickers, Sanders & Sanders, John Smedley, Pringle of Scotland. And we started selling online globally. We sold to 30 countries. We had an initial seed round from family and friends. And then when we went to go to venture capital to get the big investment to really scale, Brexit came. And the British brands in the UK at the time, there was, you know, a huge review of where you get raw material from, how you're transacting with your suppliers, having to move production either outside of the UK to manage the cost, the duties impact, and the desire for what I was thinking was a really perfect and great idea to support British brands really quickly descended into something that was not investable. And so I thought, okay, I feel strongly about this. I feel passionate about British manufacturing, about sustainability. And then I found my way to Burberry, and that was back in 2019. And I've been there ever since.
We mentioned before that we're going to talk about the business, and I really wish that I had some really clever questions to ask you. I didn't realize that, you started the business and then you were impacted by Brexit. So it's a brilliant business idea, very much needed, but it's like timing, isn't it?
It really was timing, but it taught me a lot. We invested our own money. I kind of worked two jobs. I probably should have given up my job and just gone full pelt with it. But it was the stepping stone to get me into Burberry, and it's a fantastic brand. It's got an amazing heritage. It gives me a bigger voice and a bigger platform. And I get to do something that I really enjoy every day, and with a good salary. So I can't really complain at this point. So I think that everything that has happened has led me to where I am today. And even, from a career perspective, but also from a money perspective as well.
Yeah. No, amazing. And we could go on to so many things about, women going for venture capital. I don't know if your business was, made up of male or female directors, but we could go down that rabbit hole as well. But this is about your experience of being at Women's Wealth. So when you first made the call and we had the first chat and you decided to go ahead at Women's Wealth, like what were you hoping to come out the other side feeling? Or I know that you mentioned about the unexpected tax bill and returning back to Burberry. So what were you kind of hoping for as part of the kind of journey of bringing on a financial advisor? Had you had a financial advisor before, or was it the first time?
I'd had conversations, like just one or two conversations broaching the topic, but also felt that actually I didn't earn enough to warrant a financial advisor, but actually quickly addressing the situation with the tax bill made me realize that having a financial advisor now is only going to support me longer term, even if it's, for a short period of time for the next few years. And once you know everything and you're on the right track, then probably can stop until maybe later on in life, or until you want to make kind of bigger investments. But honestly, the feeling that I wanted to have post is just feeling wealthier.
Okay.
within my environment, I'm not rich by any means, but it's, that feeling that actually, if there are any issues, if I do have any trouble, I'm sorted, but also know that how I'm building out my portfolio is scalable and the right kind of portfolio for me at this moment in time. And I mean, I've actually gotten everything that I wanted to achieve out of it, which was to feel comfortable and not to have to worry about my next tax bill. And I can safely say that I don't have to worry about my next tax bill this year, and I'm looking forward to understanding what that number is.
No, brilliant. And it is about that, doing that sort of, I think we swoop in and we kind of do like forward planning. So, and maybe look at, okay, what's gone wrong in the past and how can we rectify that for our clients, or help our clients to rectify that moving forward. And it is about doing that planning piece. Okay, how much money do you have coming in? What are you spending it on? What pockets of money do we have to put aside for these things that we know will come up in the future? And we've done quite a few things, haven't we? We haven't spoken about your daughter, the fact that you are new mum. So what's that journey been like, and kind of, I guess, being back at work and managing it, and salaries and childcare, all of that. We have done some work there. I don't, share as much or as little as you feel comfortable with sharing there.
No, absolutely. And I mean, for me, I don't ever want to be in a position where I can't support my daughter independently. I know that sounds crazy. I'm married and I'm happily married and I love my husband, but I always feel like it's smart to think about the future. And I always want to be in a position, where I can teach Nala that, you don't need anyone for financial independence. Like, you can create that on your own. And if you put all the right building blocks in place, like, you're going to be sorted. And I think knowing that you can fall back on that just allows you to be more comfortable. It probably allows you to be more risk taking, like go after the things that you really want to go after. So I think through becoming a mum and knowing that I am quite career driven, it was, making sure that all the building blocks are in the right place. And again, I think the tax bill was a trigger point to say, okay, not all the blocks are kind of, neatly aligned and in the right, there's some gaps.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think coming back into work, it was, okay, childcare is expensive. And luckily that
Absolutely.
my husband is self-employed, so we are using another scheme to be able to do some savings. But I wanted to understand, what's the feasibility of using other tax programs. And yes, like compared to many, I'm in a good position in terms of salary. But that said, there's a lot of penalties for those
Yeah,
that
there are.
are over 100K. And I am in that very difficult tax space, tax zone. I don't know what you want to call it. I don't know what the right terminology is. And for me, it was a case of, I don't want to be paying extra tax. I want to be making sure that what I'm doing is tax efficient. And that was
Mhm.
where Women's Wealth came in to really give me that education, but also just push me into thinking that, I do my take homes on a monthly are comfortable. I get to go on a couple of nice holidays every year. And I remember the conversation with you guys, and it was, well, if you do give up a bit more, you can actually get access to that free
Yeah,
childcare. And I think my initial conversation was, well, what am I going to do without that additional money? Because that allows me to afford the things and have the experiences and all that I want to, and as a family and for my parents as well. So it was I was a bit shocked at that point, but then I started to
yeah,
come around to the idea, and actually, I am so glad that I am salary sacrificing and getting to that point where I can get access to the free childcare, because it's helping my future self, it's helping my
yeah,
situation now, and I don't pay as much tax as I would have,
yeah,
3 months ago. So I think all these teachings and really understanding how the tax system works in a bit more detail has been really helpful in enabling me to balance all these things and not have it as an added stress. I think that's the most important thing, because many of my friends are in the same situation, and I feel so lucky that I can now give them the advice that you've given me, and someone pointed in
amazing.
your direction, of course. um
Yes, yeah,
so yeah, I think I'm in a better position and feel less stress, given, child, back to work,
yeah.
finances. I feel in a better position now.
Yeah, and I think just for anyone listening who isn't aware, when you do get to, over 100,000, there's certain things that start happening. You might lose, you do start to lose some of your personal allowance. It starts to get taken away. Also, you may not qualify for certain, tax-free childcare as well. So we have worked on and done some planning around, doing salary sacrifice to pension to be able to get back some of the personal allowance, pay less tax overall, but also, qualify for, some things that are beneficial for yourself. So yeah, so that's the kind of thing that we've worked on with Annabelle ourselves. Um, has there anything that's been, most useful, or was there anything that was challenging? And then we'll go to the thing has anything been enjoyable about planning? I think.
Challenging or enjoyable? Which one we're going for
Let's go
first?
for challenging first, and then we'll go for finish with the enjoyable.
I think I came in thinking that sorting out my pensions would be challenging. I think that's also
Oh,
why I
okay.
never addressed it in the past, because
Yeah.
there might be fees, or I might lose some money, or I don't know which pension to consolidate into. I mean, I had a really good pension with Deloitte because I was there for 4 years, and I was starting to build a good pension with Burberry because I've been here 6 and a bit. And I think I came in thinking, oh gosh, I just don't even know how to approach this. This is going to be quite difficult. And that actually, having you guys there and having you guys kind of walk through and do all of that analysis for me, because I didn't
Yeah.
know what some of these clauses meant, or but it was really quick and easy. And even though I took on some of the administration of kind of getting things moved over, but
Mhm.
having kind of you guys as that helpful hand, and
Yeah.
critical eye, I think that really supported me in understanding, okay, what is going to make sense, what is worth putting consolidating into other, and it was all quite a simple strategy
Yeah.
afterwards,
Yeah.
which was good. And I also thought that it was going to be, because I kind of came in with zero, and I had been married, we'd saved to do that, I'd bought a house, I'd saved to do that, I also have a flat as well, and I'd saved to do I saved to do renovations there, and I'd just come back from maternity leave, so I'd saved from maternity leave. And I was saying to you, one of my challenges was that I save 20K and then I spend it, and then I save 15K, then I
Yeah.
spend it, and then I end up at zero every time. And I just kept thinking, how am I going to get out of this cycle?
Yeah.
That was going to be challenging. And, we very quickly was like, right, emergency fund. That is the first thing
Yes.
that you're going to
Yeah.
save for before you do anything else. And I was like, how am I going to save 3 times my salary? But I did. And it was
You've
very
done it
kind of
quite
full help
quickly
on
as
it. Yeah,
well.
I did it
Yeah.
really quickly. I mean, luckily I had a bit of a bonus to help with that,
Yeah.
but it was just all hands on deck, and like, this is something I'm going to do. This is something I'm going to commit to. And yeah, now it's still sitting there. I haven't actually gone into it. I feel like I will be going into it maybe as an emergency soon. There's some
Yeah.
challenges at my flat, but at
Okay.
least I don't have to worry about where that's coming from. Whereas before, if I was at zero, I'd be like, how am I going to
Yeah.
do this?
Yeah, it's that. I mean, I feel like in our minds as money mentors and financial advisors, planners, and you've been on conversations with Sam as well, and we tend to have a way of doing things, and one of the most important things is having that emergency fund in place.
Yeah.
If anything goes wrong, like you mentioned, flat issues, whatever it may be, unexpected tax bill, you've got that emergency fund there to fall back on, which is always a plus. Another thing is we do, and I don't know how you felt, we did the personal preferences. So understanding things such as your risk appetite, so that you can go away and decide, okay, where should my pension be? And we also did all of the analysis around, what you've already got, and what it looks like, where it should go, and all of that type of stuff. So, and I think it gives our clients the confidence that they understand some of the decision making. So that some of the things that seem really complicated, i.e., your pensions, and you've got pensions here, there, and everywhere, it can be quite intimidating to actually look at them.
Absolutely.
But I do think once you start, the planning process and looking at, different asset classes, risk appetites, and so on and so forth, it kind of allows you to feel confident moving forward in making those decisions for yourself. So.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I mean, even with the funds, it was, and I know I always wanted to kind of invest with an ESG lens. But yeah, even with the funds, it was like, I don't even know what I'm looking for. So even walking through some of the Fidelity funds with you guys, that was a bit of a learning curve. Now I know what to look out for. Even just the difference between passive and active investing. I mean, it sounds so simple, but so many people don't understand the difference between those. It's, coming out with a lot more knowledge.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, so do you feel better informed about your money, finance? Is it more enjoyable thinking about money now in comparison to before, would you say?
It is, and I feel much more comfortable approaching the conversation. I think before it was kind of this topic that I knew I had to tackle, but I didn't know how. And now I feel much more equipped with understanding how the UK tax system works, understanding what's in my repertoire to kind of dial down, whether that's pension contributions or, ISA allowances, for example. And even from the investment front, just I never thought about stocks and shares ISA. And actually, even though my dad gave me really good advice, I wish. And what I'm going to say to Nala, and what I've been doing with the money that she's getting, is I'm investing it already. Like, all of her money is sitting in a stocks and shares ISA under my name, but it's sitting in stocks and shares ISA already. And as soon as she earns money herself, I'd be like, look, you need to get your money into an ISA. And I just know the advice I'm going to be giving to her. And I think the other thing is having a sounding board. I've come to you with some ideas around, I can't deal with my flat, I'm going to sell my flat. And, we've walked through the scenarios.
Didn't we? Yeah.
Exactly. And I think we've touched on it a couple of times, potentially moving it into a limited company to kind of free up some of my tax allowance, especially as I'm trying to get under the 100K mark. And, it's just been really great to have some very productive conversations and know that I can just drop you a very stressed email, Selena, and say, oh my gosh, I need to sell my flat. And you'd be like, right, let's just work through this. Let's just go through the pros. Let's go through the pros and cons before I'm calling up Bernard Marcus like, hey guys, can you put my flat up for sale? Because I can't deal with the tenants. And I mean, these are all incredible, amazing and privileged problems to have, but they're still problems nonetheless, and they still need reviewing and assessing and, reflecting whether it's a good idea or not. So having you guys as a sounding board has honestly, and at the click of a finger, I probably have come across as a pushy client at times.
No. Do you know what I love about you, Annabelle? I feel like you are a client that just gets stuff done. You are a client that, if something comes to mind, you want to discuss it, we can book you in, have a conversation about it, and then you will decide, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that, or I'm going to, follow. So you're a perfect client because you just get stuff done. You know what you want to talk about, you know what's on your mind, we discuss it, and then, you action it. And, that's perfect for me, because I'm a person that I like to make a decision quite quickly, so it works for me. I want to know all the facts and figures, make a decision, and then you can kind of just move on with life, can't you? So you're very proactive, which is just amazing, and it shows, like, your journey, like you mentioned, starting from zero, because you have to spend before this journey, and building, savings, stocks and shares, ISA. You're building, almost fully funding your pension for the year, and and we're here. We see ourselves as your financial best friends. So we're here. Any questions, ping us an email, and we'll create a meeting and discuss. So no, you understand the brief and you take full advantage, which is good. It's what you pay us for.
My husband would still call that boss, probably.
No, don't see it that way, but yeah.
Every time we had a conversation, I was like, I need to run this by Selena and Sam first.
That's what we're here for, and we love it. We honestly love it. So no, and it's great, and it's great to see your journey as well. It's been amazing. Any kind of hints and tips about, if there's anyone listening thinking about getting financial advice and planning, maybe considering women's wealth? And you did mention that you have recommended us to others, and we really appreciate that. But any kind of, if anyone's kind of on the fence about speaking to a financial advisor and planner, what would you say to them?
I would say, I think it doesn't matter what you earn. I think regardless of whether you earn £10,000 a year or £500,000 a year, like, the advice and the steps to how you can create wealth, and you can create wealth no matter what salary you're on. And for me, if anyone is in a situation where they think they're not worthy of a financial advisor, I mean, that's just BS, to be honest.
Yes, absolutely.
So it's, if you feel like you need help and you need advice, and the good thing about financial advisors, they're not here to con you out of thousands of money. Like, there's definitely, flexibility in terms of, like, giving you advice or putting you on, like, the subscription model, and it's just go out and ask the right questions. Like, there's no good time to start creating wealth. Like, it's now, and especially now, given how the markets are changing and the macroeconomic landscape, like, it is now. And if I would say anything, it's definitely, salary sacrificing is such an incredible thing. I think even if you, regardless of the tax, free childcare benefit, even if you're earning well above the threshold, like, to be able to salary sacrifice your pension with the 60k allowance is, I mean, I never knew about it before. And now I feel like where I'm at now is my baseline. So I'm always going to continue to salary sacrifice this amount. I mean, my husband might be like, no, we need to buy a house, we need that money. But the principle will always be the same. And I don't think I'm ever going to stop. Because before, I always used salary sacrifice, I'd always give 5%, 5%.
Yeah.
Now I think it's like 33%. Maybe it won't be as high, but I almost feel like a 20% baseline is probably something I'm going to go for. I think everybody should salary sacrifice and use your ISAs. Use your ISA.
Yeah, use your
I wish I had been thinking in that line. And like I said, that's the advice I'm going to give to Nala. As soon as you can, get open an ISA and start paying into it and let it grow itself. Because you're only going to benefit and you're going to have the life that you want. So
yeah, absolutely. I love what you said. Use all the wrappers.
Use all the tax wrappers.
Yeah, all the tax.
For anyone that doesn't like Labour, get on the ISA and the salary sacrifice.
Yeah. So we create the plan. We make sure we're using all the wrappers. That's kind of our job to guide you. And it sounds like you're enjoying the whole process of doing it all. So yeah, thank you so much for speaking to me today, Annabelle. It's been a pleasure. And I'm Selena Flavius. Thank you so much for tuning in to Her Fabulous Financial Futures, and we will speak to you again soon. Thank you. Thanks, Annabelle.
Thanks.